Welcome once again to the internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Redline Podcast. I'm your host, Connor Dunstan, and these are my co-hosts,
Kyle Holland and
Alex Fielder. Today we're talking about urbanism, but first, the news.
We're not using that. In the wake of Russia's ill-advised and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, the price of crude oil has skyrocketed, causing gas prices to explode all over the world. In the United States alone, the average cost of a gallon of gas is now higher than at any point in history, and some experts are now saying that we may be facing prices over $7 a gallon by summer, followed by possible shortages and even rationing in the near future. The question is, will this fix our ridership slump? Opinions?
It'd better.
Yeah, it better.
It might do a bit, but the people, they love their cars. What else are they going to do?
And
take the train? Take the bus? You can't take away our lights.
This is communism, I tell you. Well, in another instance of extremely stupid Americanism, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has just decided that he is going to give car owners in California $400 per car.
Wait.
Bruh.
Just for fun?
For gas, expensive.
But in California, what?
But you couldn't take LA Metro or BART or San Francisco's Transit or San Diego Trolley or anything else or Caltrain. You have to take car.
Why wouldn't you just use that money to help make the system more affordable for people?
Silence. I mean, to be fair, he also is making transit fares free for 3 months.
That's good.
But that is going to cost $750 million.
Well, so why don't you just use the gas money that, to...
Because he wants to get reelected and Americans are stupid.
Doesn't California already have massive chronic congestion problems?
Yes. And also, massive pollution, and there's this whole thing called climate change, which is going to swallow their cities. But,
So
gas.
This is like the perfect opportunity to whip a cool transit project out of nowhere.
Right, or actually finish stupid CHSR.
Is that the high-speed rail?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be finished within our lifetime.
That's funny. You're a funny man.
Thank you.
In other news, the MBTA has implemented a fare-free pilot on 3 of its most popular bus lines, a first for a major East Coast transit agency. Free fare will be applied on routes 23, 28, and 29, and will last for at least 2 years. They've also finally finished the first half of the GLX extension of the Green Line in Boston, which finally bringing high-quality rail transit back to Union Square in Lechmere. Work on the second branch of the extension is ongoing, and the line to Tufts is expected to enter service in the next few years. This was the news. All right, that was a big news segment. There's a lot of crap going on right now.
Yes, there in fact is.
Bruh, the GLX, though, that's probably the best light rail extension we've seen in this country in, many time.
Tell me more about it. I'm not familiar.
So, it's only 2 stations for now. But if you're not aware of how the Green Line works, it's kind of a cluster truck. Because on one end it turns into 4 branches and it used to go to one place on the other end.
Wait, 4 branches?
4 branches on one line.
How do they make that work?
Well, it just has insanely high frequency on the core section because it operates as a subway line.
So it gets 5 minutes?
But probably better at some times.
All right, then.
Yeah.
So it feels like one long train, pretty much?
It is, and then it turns into 4 trains that get 15, 20-minute service each.
Brilliant.
I know.
I never even thought about that.
But the GLX is basically restoring lines that MBTA cut 50 years ago. Because this is what we do in America, is we destroy our transit, then we rebuild it. So the first extension was just a one-stop extension from Lechmere, which was the old terminus of the line, to Union, which is, I think, the Amtrak terminal.
So how much distance does that cover?
Oh, it's only a mile. Mm-hmm. But the second half of the GLX extension is where it's going to get really interesting, because this is a 5-6 mile extension to Tufts, which will sort of bring rail transit to a place where there'd only been commuter rail for a while. So it's pretty substantive for Boston.
All right.
And it's also projected to increase ridership on the Green Line from current pre-pandemic status quo was 132,000 a day. Yeah, I know. Gotta love the East Coast. to something like 150 to 160 or even 170,000 a day.
Cool.
Very, very good project, if you ask me. Of course, it is wildly expensive because this is America and we don't know how to build things anymore.
It's so sad.
Well, and this is actually the reason that light rail is getting so much more expensive to build in the last few years, is because we're not doing it. Like, when you do something a lot, it gets cheaper.
Yep.
Which is why, like, San Diego Trolley, Portland Max, Salt Lake, we were all able to build light rail for, like,
$50 million.
or even, like, in the case of San Diego, like, $6 million a mile. And now we're just being like, yeah, let's make it cost as much as the subway and suck.
We just screwed ourselves over by waiting.
Yeah, by just not being aggressive enough. Because, like, we're building light rail in a lot of places for the cost of elevated rail.
So, do
Oh
you
my
think?
goodness.
Do you think
Like, the REM costs like $100 million a kilometer. Still more expensive than $100 million a mile, but that's like $160 million a mile, and it's completely grade separated and automated.
So, do you think as more cities and places get more light rail, we might get more? If
Well,
it drives down the cost?
The short answer to that is no one's building light rail anymore.
What are
No
they
one's
building?
building urban rail anymore. Because they-
BRT.
well, yes,
Bruh.
actually. Like, everyone has just decided that they're going to stop building urban rail of any sort.
You mean the oil lobby decided that they're going to stop
Well-
building urban rail of any sort?
Okay, I wasn't going to say that, but yes. But everyone, including, like, even MTA was at one point considering doing BRT instead of rail.
MTA was?
Yes.
Yeah, for the IBX, the
For the
Interborough
IBX,
Express.
because
Why?
It was one of
Because-
the actual studied alternatives.
What?
BRT.
they spent money on
On a rail corridor.
on a rail corridor.
Why?
On a grade
I feel like
separated
I
rail
feel like
corridor.
I don't know.
Because they've decided in their heads that it's cheaper even though it's not, and that it's the same even though it's not. And
Did you know that you could pay less money
Also,
for an
oil
objectively worse service?
also, oil industry lobbyists will give you nice, strange, mysterious vacations to places. if
They're
you-
gonna take you out to a nice lobster dinner.
Lobster dinner, yeah. They'll take you to a lobster dinner and send your family to the Bahamas if you decide on a certain alternative over another one.
Are we ever gonna have transit lobbyists?
We do, they just don't have any money.
Are we gonna have
Yeah, that's
a
fair.
more powerful transit lobby?
Unlikely, because it's in the interest of the elite to maintain the status quo. You think
That's a
you
good
think
answer.
that rich people want transit? No, because then the poor's can get close to them, and they're scared of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
So, like, this is the real reason rich people don't live in New York anymore. It's because the poor's can get close to them.
They can't just build up.
They have to take the subway if they want to get anywhere in a reasonable amount of time.
They can't drive Bentleys around town.
Well, I mean, you can. You're just going to be stuck in traffic for 6 hours trying to get from 142nd to 60th. Not to say that MTA is doing great, because they fired the person who was fixing it 2 years ago, and now it sucks again.
Bruh.
But they have the new cards, don't they?
And they did get a new guy. Oh, and they are getting the new cars. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which are very nice, even though they still have that stupid American thing we do where we just make everything stainless steel, which makes even our newest rolling stock in the entire country look like it's from the 1800s.
Well, paint's expensive.
No, it's not.
You've seen how
Well,
much
I mean, it is for BRT apparently, but oh, that's a boondoggle. You want to hear about the worst boondoggle?
Yeah, go for it.
So, Houston, in doing the thing that everyone's doing now and being super trendy and building BRT because it, quote, is just like rail. And they say this on their website, of course, because that's everyone's favorite thing to say.
Well, if you repeat it enough, the lie becomes true.
Right, in 1984
Sure.
shit. So, they build this 5-mile BRT line instead of a light rail line, which was planned already because, quote unquote, cheaper.
Yeah, and also seriously worse.
Yes, obviously. So it's 5 miles. It has fully dedicated lanes. It's even elevated for a significant portion of its...
It's elevated?
That's right. It runs on an elevated guideway next to the
Okay.
freeway. Cost $177 million
Oh my goodness.
for 5 miles.
For
So
5
that's
miles.
$35 million a mile. And it's not even fully... Yeah, anyway, you'll never guess how many people ride it a day.
7? 8?
700. The capital cost...
700? Wait,
700. Zero.
the guy...
A rapid
I'm-
transit line.
I'm speechless.
When did this open again?
2021.
Bruh.
So
Okay,
you
but-
can say pandemic depression and say it should get
This is-
1,400 riders a day.
this
Okay,
is
but
com-
1400's not even that much for
This
how much
is-
it cost, right?
Connor, this is comparable to the track's S line, which is 2 miles long and goes 2 miles an hour.
Well, the thing is, it's also slow as hell and goes 10 miles an hour, despite having completely
Wait,
dedicated
it goes
lanes
10 miles an hour?
on average.
On average.
Remind me how long it takes to cover the 5 miles?
30 minutes. For no reason.
For 5 miles?
Yes, that is correct. Houston's rail is, per, mile of trackage, one of the best used light rail systems in this country. Because it isn't that big. And they did this whole thing where they, focused on corridors of density when building it.
Wow. That's funny.
They got an idea from above.
Weird. An idea from God, who told them that they should maybe, build it in dense places instead of only going to the suburbs like our light rail. But yeah, this is literally the definition of a boondoggle.
So, who...
But, it's just like rail. It will get the same ridership as rail. Bus is rail. Rail is bus.
Everything's everything.
Everything is everything. There are no substantive differences. I was definitely not paid to say this. Yeah.
Redline train to Daybreak.
So anyway, moving on from that rant, do you consider yourselves urbanists?
Well, that was a bit of a 360.
Yes.
Can you define it real quick for me?
So urbanism, or more properly, quote, new urbanism, unquote, is like a kind of pseudo-ideology that has kind of evolved over the past few decades. And it's like a direct rejection of suburban sprawl, automobility, and all the other nonsense that the United States and Canada have been doing for the last 70 years.
So it's just being sensible and wanting people to live tightly in one area.
Because it's good for the environment and good
Then
for
I would say
good for society.
I want to be an urbanist, yeah.
Okay, well then you're probably an urbanist. So the Congress for New Urbanism, which is the guys who kind of kickstarted the whole thing, they're actually meeting right now for the 30th Congress of New Urbanism in Oklahoma City, fun fact.
These are more meetings than the all-powerful bicycle lobby has ever had.
Well, the all-powerful bicycle lobby is all-powerful, so they don't even need to have meetings.
That's true, that's true.
But they have kind of like a charter of what urbanists believe, and it has 5 main points.
And they all start with the word we.
All right, so Alex, why don't you read the first tenet?
Okay, I'm going to read this in my most urbanist voice possible.
Your most urbanist voice, okay.
We stand for the restoration of existing urban centers and towns within the coherent metropolitan regions, the reconfiguration of sprawling suburbs into communities of real neighborhoods and diverse districts, the conservation of natural environments, and the preservation of our built legacy.
That sounds very pretentious. I like it.
It's mostly the voice I did it in.
I mean, but it's all common sense stuff. Like, we stand for the restoration of existing urban centers. So, parking lots out of downtown, rebuild more buildings, transit connections, all that kind of stuff.
Like, you've seen downtown Salt Lake. There's shuttered up old buildings on Main Street.
Yeah. The reconfiguration of sprawling suburbs into communities of real neighborhoods and diverse districts.
Okay, so give them grocery stores and stuff they can walk
Corner
to.
stores, give them transit connections and transit-oriented development.
So don't just have pure housing with no businesses.
Missing middle stuff.
Oh, yeah, that.
Like, all pretty good stuff. Diverse districts. Maybe don't build everything exactly the same all the time, question mark?
Zoning code forces you to build everything exactly the same around here.
But anyway, and the preservation of our built legacy. So stop tearing down
cool buildings and replacing them with boring buildings.
Downtowns and putting strip malls on them, please.
So
that is bad. You know where 650 South is going to be? There used to be a strip mall next to that, apparently. I just learned.
Oh, and they're just now redeveloping it?
Yeah, the new track stop.
So there used to be a strip mall there, and they've now been redeveloping it to housing?
So that would actually be an urbanism thing.
Hog.
Yeah.
We do like some good redevelopment around here.
All right, Kyle, you get the second one because it's really long.
We advocate the restructuring of public policy and development practices to support the following principles. Neighborhoods should be diverse in use and population. Communities should be designed for pedestrian and transit as well as the car.
Woo!
But mostly pedestrian and transit. Cities and towns should be shaped by physically defined and universally accessible public spaces and community institutions. God bless the ADA and God bless sidewalks. Urban places should be framed by architecture and landscape design that celebrate local history, climate, ecology, and building practice.
I like these guys.
Maybe everyone doesn't get a giant lawn and they can have native grasses
Yeah,
instead.
why don't we have, like... Okay, I know in Utah this is a desert, so our native vegetation options are fairly limited. But we could at least try.
Well, in a dense and mixed-use environment, not everybody needs a yard because there is a nice park accessible where you can have a lawn that's efficient for everyone.
And it's bigger, and you can use it with your friends to play some sports, hang up your hammock, you name it. And you don't even have to mow it.
Me need yard, me never use.
Sorry, you win.
Like, this is my family, our yard just sits.
Hey, same.
And all we do is complain about having to mow it.
Hey, same. Except we now hire
I don't know
people
about
to mow
your
it.
family, though.
We just
Because don't you live in, like, an actually, like, not sprawl house?
Oh, what do you mean not sprawl house?
Well, you live in Sugar House.
It's getting better. We're getting a lot more, like, local shops. So there's like a new grocers in there, in that building there.
So your neighborhood is actually like,
it's actually
walkable and mixed use-ish.
It's getting better. It was really nice during the pandemic. They shut like the main bit of the street, so it was walkable. That was fantastic.
Okay, why did they get rid of that? Why are we unpedestrianizing streets? Like, we learned this lesson already.
Yeah.
Of course, we've also learned the highway widening lesson already, and Toronto, which already has the widest highway in the world, is widening it.
Oh, boy.
That's going to do wonders for induced demand.
No, it won't.
And people complain about the capital cost of rail systems.
Oh, boy.
Talk about the recurring capital cost of highway systems.
Yeah.
Well, you should see the highway work they're doing on I-80 right next to my house.
Yeah.
It's
We should.
The only good thing about them working on the highways is when the lanes split and you get to be in your own little lane. It's a special thing for me.
Very fun and special.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Well, next, so all those also good things. I also like that they sort of emphasize architecture and landscape design that celebrate local history, climate, ecology, and building practice.
Yeah.
Like, we should embrace our architectural legacy in cities when we're building new things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be a brownstone, but maybe it can look like something that we used to build, like our style. Like, if you're going to build a skyscraper in Louisiana, maybe incorporate some New Orleans style. Or in, say, San Francisco, maybe incorporate some of that style. Like, these are important things. We got to retain our architectural legacy.
Well, I know this happens in Chigas a lot, like the very small design that supports the local history. Like along the S line, you see a lot of small local stuff.
Right.
Along a lot of the transit, you see a lot of local art and everything. Murals, those are pretty big here, aren't
Sculptures they have on some track stations.
They have the fish just along the street. The sculptures of the like salmon, I think.
Oh,
or the
cool.
rainbow trout.
Also, has anyone ever noticed how much more small businesses there seem to be along rail lines?
It's almost like if people are on foot, then they might go to businesses.
This is the quandary wrapped in a riddle. All right, so tenet 3 of 5, we recognize that physical solutions by themselves will not solve social and economic problems, but neither can economic vitality, community stability, and environmental health be sustained without a coherent and supportive physical framework. So basically what they're saying is the problems with society can't be entirely solved by fixing our cities, but it will help.
And they're right about that.
And they're right.
You know, I was watching a new Life of Boris video about Dubai and how you physically cannot walk places.
Right.
Like, obviously, Dubai is a very extreme example.
And they theoretically have a metro.
I'm reading that they're trying to fix it, but they kind of just built it poorly, so...
They just did America harder than America ever did.
Yeah, like, Dubai is a literal postcard example. It's a postcard in real life.
They have, like, a 40-lane freeway.
But big tower.
Yeah.
So...
thing that looks like Palm Tree Island.
So from this caricature of America, we can reflect back on our own urban design. Just a little bit.
How do you build up your city so badly?
By pretending you're America.
And doing it even worse.
By like
Worse,
just being
yeah.
like, car's good and let's go hard on that one.
So from this, we can learn that we should do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Well, here's the fourth tenet.
Yeah.
We represent a broad-based citizenry composed of public and private sector leaders, community activists, and multidisciplinary professionals. We are committed to re-establishing the relationship between the art of building and the making of community through citizen-based participatory planning and design.
That all sounds very complicated, but what it means is like, hey, traffic engineers, stop being jerks.
Consider the people that are not inside of 2-ton metal boxes that may want to pass through your magical control point. It's not all about how many cars you can shove through per hour.
Cagers be gone. That's my new favorite thing. It's an anti-car owner.
Call them cagers.
Cagers.
Because you put yourself in a cage?
It's like a slur, but not. Because,
like a slur for
because they're not discriminated against in any way and actually have priority in every way, so be quiet, cagers, no one cares. Weep. Cope. We're getting bus lanes. We're getting bike lanes. We're getting good intersections, and you can't do anything about it.
Well, they could ride the bus or the bike or walk.
Then they're no longer cages.
You
Good.
could ride the train, and you will no longer
Good.
be a cager.
Exactly.
And then the final tenet is we dedicate ourselves to reclaiming our homes, blocks, streets, parks, neighborhoods, districts, towns, cities, regions, and environment.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to add on this from the clutches of auto-dependency
You're here.
and bad urban planning.
Woo! If we were in a grand lecture hall, I'm going to be honest,
Liberal
that-
college students.
I want to see a speech of these guys. 'cause I
Trouble
feel
is
like
all of our college students are so car-brained. Like, they drive to Smith's, which you can get to directly on the Red Line.
Yep.
Well, you've seen the Monorails Engineering parking lot, right?
We have too much parking. We need less parking.
Yeah, we should build
Do
housing
we know
instead
what
of parking.
percentage of the campus is parking? 'Cause
I
wanna
did the
say,
math. I think it's 30, and we have something like
Is that just surface land area?
yeah.
So
Okay.
no include.
Well, you can't include garages.
Well, those
Garages
count for
are
this.
bad, but they aren't as bad.
Well,
as surface
Well,
yeah.
land.
then just tower it up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have much less problem with the garage,
Because they get out of the way.
especially if it's underground.
Yeah,
Keep it out of the way. It
And
doesn't.
once we eventually ban cars, you can like seal it off and put archival vault stuff in it or
You
something.
can
I don't
put- you
know.
can
Put
turn
all
it
the
in-
Mormon records down there.
Look, you can tell the conservatives you can turn it into a bomb shelter, and they will love that. So.
There we go.
Oh,
That would
oh
fly
no!
around
Just
here,
change
actually.
it to like army storage.
Yeah, let the army have it. Like, I'm sure
Honestly.
they can figure out something.
Well,
to do
they
with
would
it.
love to have a bit of space downtown, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
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 But yeah, no, we have too much parking. We have something like 18,000 parking spaces on campus for no good reason,
Bruh.
despite the fact that we have literally every bus, tracks.
We have the best service. On par with downtown, probably.
We have
Yeah.
better service than downtown,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Oh, when you see a bus sign with about 9 different
Yeah.
lines on it,
Of course, it should be faster, but
we
can do
should
that.
have better service.
Yeah, worse.
And longer service.
Tracks should be elevated downtown. That's my new thing.
Elevated or buried?
Elevated, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Like,
And have you
wait.
have you seen the Rem de l'Est?
Is that French?
It's in Montreal. They're building so much. Oh, I'll show you. They have
Okay.
the most beautiful design for their elevated rail. It fits in really well with the built environment, and I feel like we could do.
Well, if you had it elevated, you could have it drop people off a bit higher up in buildings, right?
Sure.
You could have
City Creek
you could
Bridge.
have
It could
wait,
literally
so you
go
could-
directly into City Creek.
You could have like lower level shops and more shops above,
Yeah.
Right.
and you could have people walking over.
The City Creek
Ooh,
Bridge
okay.
would now be a train station.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Okay,
that was the other thing I was considering is that since City Creek is kind of a centerpiece of our downtown right now. For,
Well, those 2 blocks
Because-
historically have been
Right.
centerpieces.
But now
Even
it
in
has
the
been
hist-
crowned the centerpiece.
it is. I mean, there's a lot of housing there. There's a lot of
the
shopping.
rails go there now.
You can go to Temple Square from there easier than from Temple Square Station for some reason.
It's off State Street, so it's not awful.
Right.
Yep.
So I feel like that would be really cool if you could go directly into City Creek
That-
from the
I
from the
concur.
rail.
I concur.
That would be kind of crazy. Speaking of just elevated, how do you guys feel about monorails?
Aren't those like...
Gadget Bond.
'Cause-
Gadget Bond.
Are those
Gadget
like-
Bond.
Okay, because I saw one in Seattle. It looked cool.
You can make monorails good, though, but most of the time, just build a darn elevated metro.
Yeah, no,
for gosh sake.
there's generally no real benefits
Yeah,
over just
I'm
regular.
pretty sure. I think it was built for the World Fair in Seattle. Same with the Space Needle. So it's just
Yeah.
oh,
It's a
look at
tourist-
this.
It's a tourist thing that you can get the...
Then you can go underground and take the link, which is
Did you ride the link?
oh, I
How
did
was
I
it?
ride the link?
How was it, Alex?
Okay, I'm just gonna say it was phenomenal. It actually went fast. It went underground downtown.
Dude.
It's elevated.
All of the underground stations were unique.
Dude.
There was one that I think was 1984 themed, but I don't know for sure. But it got you everywhere. They had streetcars, which were actually pretty nice
the
streetcars.
Seattle
if
streetcars
I'm
are very
gonna
good
be
and
honest.
useful, actually.
And they're actually small and look like streetcars, unlike our S line.
The S-Line, which is a fully dedicated rider-free streetcar.
And they made the funny ding 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 ding.
Now that you've been to Seattle, we're going to Portland this summer, so we can experience the best streetcars of the United
And add fare cards to my collection.
Yes, and add fare cards to his
because if I
collection.
get
Of
enough,
course.
I'll frame them.
Yeah, because he has a Metro card now. He's going to
The
get a fare pay
MTA
card.
and the Orca,
And he
which are
has the
two
Orca.
pretty big.
Those are
big
two
ones.
very important
Mhm.
agencies, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Very
well, we
nice.
went really off on a tangent there.
Good.
So the real question is, why is urbanism growing now? And I think the answer to that is pretty obvious, because young people not like suburb because boring and stupid.
I think
I
that's-
like it when you break stuff down into very simple terms.
Yes.
I
Because
think-
it's all true.
Yeah.
And we all want to move. Like, the vast majority of the more recent generations, that's millennials, that's a significant portion of Gen X, and that's most definitely Gen Z, wants to live in the city, doesn't want to have to drive everywhere, would like to be sustainable. Like, this is a very common desire among Gen Zs because, you know,
They want to live and not just house.
yeah, and they can't afford the nonsense suburban living.
Which was designed to be expensive.
Yeah, so that they could keep the poors and people of color out. That's not even a joke.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yikes. But yeah, more people than ever are moving to cities, and the prior decline of downtowns is reversing itself in like a really dramatic fashion all over the country. I mean, just look at Salt Lake City downtown, which just a couple of decades ago was a barren wasteland of half-empty office buildings, parking lots, and derelict warehouses. And now, it's not perfect, but there's a lot more
They've
than
made
there
a
used
lot
to
of
be.
significant changes. Development's still infilling, but
Yes.
it's getting there.
But it's working, and I mean, the amount of housing going up downtown is immense. There's like 500 unit skyscraper apartment buildings going up right now.
Nice.
Like,
I feel like also the demographics had something to do with this. And this feels like it's very generalizing, but I feel like a lot of Mormons want to have the perfect house, picket fence, and as we get more diverse people and more, I don't know, just more people in general, then we'll have more people that want a different life.
oh, I think that's probably fair because the LDS Church, as Kyle is well aware, is very family-centered. And historically, it has been presented that the only acceptable way to raise a family is in a white picket fence in the suburbs.
And we're not saying...
Especially around here,
Yeah.
where all of the people who are saying this grew up and raised their family in white picket fence in the suburbs.
Right. So
the-
I would say that has more to do with like society indoctrinating the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints than
Thanks for not saying ODS.
yeah,
Yeah.
than anything
So,
else.
so you combine the suburban indoctrination with the desire to have a large family, and bam, before you even consider any other options, you're moving to the suburbs.
And we're not knocking, like, having family values. It's just, like, the way you go around
Family
it.
values. The suburbs are terrible for children, and we will do an episode on that someday.
Yeah.
But they're just bad for kids, like in every conceivable way. At least the American suburbs are, of course.
Not Just Bikes would love to corroborate
Not
you
Just
on every
Bikes
point of that.
would very much like to talk about that, yes. A shout out to Not Just Bikes, my third favorite YouTube channel. So, obviously, all these people are moving downtown, but what they're finding is that it's not good.
There's a lot of work to be done.
There's a lot of work to be done because downtowns were destroyed and rebuilt for cars, and so there's still these massive arterials going through all these downtown places where people are living and going to the grocery store
Yeah.
and working. And
Like downtown Salt Lake, if you go to the literal dead center of Salt Lake City, like
Eagle Gate, I think it is, right?
Yep.
Right
Yep.
outside of Brigham Young's old home.
Literal dead center of the
6-lane
grid
road
system.
intersecting
4-lane
road.
Yeah, and then if you go over like Main Street, they've made a lot of great changes.
Main Street's good.
Yeah, it's 2 lanes, train in the middle, giant sidewalks. We love it.
Of course,
But-
it does have sharrows.
Yeah, but the speed limit's like 20 and they're painted green.
Okay, but does anyone pay attention to that speed limit?
When they're stuck behind me on a bike, yeah.
Ah.
Well, actually, more often I end up stuck behind cars. Because honestly, you're not going any faster than me on a bike.
Fair.
Anyways, but once you go like a block or 2 away from Main Street, like even just 1 block over to State, it instantly degrades into what it used to be.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the downtown that people should live in, but it's also... It would be nice if it was like Salt Lake in its trolley days. When you had trolleys going down like every few streets and you had bustling communities around that.
Right. Well, I mean, and you can see the vestiges of those communities today in pretty much every city. Like, look at 9th and 9th, or in my hometown, I guess you would say, like, my hometown is basically the vestiges of a transit-oriented development that has been turned into a suburban nightmare. Yeah, I mean, anywhere you go, you can sort of see the evidence of what walkable communities used to be. So, like, everybody doesn't have to live downtown.
Yeah, no, and I'm speaking very much in Salt Lake Valley terms. You should have no problem living comfortably within a few blocks of city center. There's just no reason we should be pushing people 20 miles away to the bottom of the valley.
But my car, but my 50 lanes of parallel freeway.
Yes.
I-15's built. Let's just use it.
How about we stop and crash destroy it? And how about we do urban renewal level destruction, except on freeways? People don't like to talk about it here, but Salt Lake has been cut in half just as much as any other city by freeway.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at the west side, which is almost completely isolated from the east side,
Yes.
has higher rates of poverty, worse access to transit, worse access to amenities, worse parks, worse schools, worse roads, and you're going to tell me that that wasn't redlining?
Well, it
Literally
literally
by
was
Literally
redlining.
was redlining, because that's where...
I'm surprised we're talking about redlining on the red line.
Well,
I knew it would come, but like everything about the city is because of redlining.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Right, and like, I mean, even State Street is a little bit of a redlining enterprise because it cuts off like the area around Liberty Park from the area where all those big box stores are now, which used to be, you know, minority communities. So, anyway, urbanism, actually good. We should build places that are nice to live in and that are sustainable for the environment. Agreed?
Yes.
Agreed.
And cities should do this quickly,
Very quickly.
And
Now.
fast, because there's this whole climate change thing, which we have, like, let's see, 8 years to fix?
Oh boy.
If we could fix it right now.
The Arctic and Antarctic are now warming at 4 times the rate of the rest of the world. So,
Wow.
rest in peace to Florida.
Mhm.
Good riddance.
Good thing,
Well,
good thing we live at
we
like
shouldn't be
4,000
talking
feet.
about. We shouldn't be talking about positives.
I mean, New York's also going to have some issues, and that's definitely not a positive.
But they can pull a like Netherlands and just like dam off the
they
water.
can certainly afford to pull another ones there. But yeah, so just like if you can't do a big thing because you have a mayor who is car-brained, do some tactical urbanism. Get some little baby improvements passed. Like, I don't know, maybe put a barrier on a bike lane or maybe a bus lane through a particularly congested section. Get some little things done now, and it will lead to big things in the future.
And just pay attention to what's happening around you politically and physically as well.
Well, right. And if you don't have a transit agency, lobby for one. Like, everybody needs one. Or even just start your own. Like, go back to the olden days, buy a cheap bus, and operate a for-profit transit system. It can work.
Straight up.
Or if you're rich, give your money to people.
Yeah, give
and
me... Dear Jeff Bezos, please pay for the tracks expansions that I desire.
and make the front runner happen tomorrow.
Yeah. There is...
And electrify it for
Yep.
free,
Immediately. There is no... I can't stress this enough, that there is no longer any time to delay these improvements, to fix our transit, to expand it rapidly, to build walkable neighborhoods, infill development. There is no time. We need to be doing this yesterday. But the next best time is today. So go out, be annoying to your city council, yell at NIMBYs, and, like, get some urbanism done, please.
Thank you.
And if you do it, send us an email, reach out to us. We want to hear about it.
We're going to start a new segment on this called Tactical Urbanism Stories at the end, and we don't have anything for it now. So
help us make content.
Give material, please, so we can make money.
And so you guys can listen to it.
Yeah. Spread awareness, blah, blah, blah.
Money.
So I would like to thank our supporter on Patreon, Mike Christensen, who is currently at the Congress for New Urbanism in Oklahoma City. Fun fact. Hi,
Nice.
Mike. Also, we are available on Spotify, YouTube, and are we on Apple Podcasts now?
Almost. I gotta make a couple more technical fixes. It's
Almost on
evolving.
Apple Podcasts. Please remember to follow and subscribe. Hit the bell on both Spotify and YouTube. And go to our website. Follow us on Twitter, all the other stuff. Most of the information from this, especially the New Urbanism stuff, is pulled directly from the Congress for New Urbanism's website. The news stuff is pulled from www.masstransit.org and caranddriver.com. Thank you for listening.
Go fix your cities.
Yeah,
Bye.
fix your dang cities.
Quality.